Measuring humidity. So at this point we've talked about the concepts of saturation and humidity, and the two types of humidity, absolute and relative. In this case what we are measuring is relative humidity. And the device we use to measure that is called a psychrometer. Sometimes it's called a sling psychrometer, and in a moment you'll find out why. So the way a psychrometer is set up, it has two thermometers. One has what's called a wet bulb, so there is something wet on the bulb part of the thermometer, and one has a dry bulb. So one of the thermometers is the wet bulb thermometer, one is a dry bulb. Typically they're mounted on opposite sides of this portion of the psychrometer. So as you see, the dry bulb is going to measure the air temperature. The way this device is used, you hold on to this handle and then you sling it around. You basically twirl it. And so as it's twirling around, the thermometers are going to be slung through the air. And so the dry bulb, you're just getting the temperature. The wet bulb is going to experience evaporation. And when water evaporates, it causes the surface to cool. That's how sweat works. The sweat on your skin evaporates, and that helps you cool off. But evaporation depends on humidity. As you know, on a really humid day, your sweat doesn't evaporate. You are drenched. Whereas if it's very dry out, your sweat evaporates very quickly. So, drier air evaporates more, which means it's going to cool more. So, if the air is dry, the wet bulb will have a low temperature. If air is humid, the wet bulb will be a higher temperature. But it will never be, hang on, sorry, I had to pause to sneeze there. The wet bulb will be warmer, but never warmer than the dry bulb. You can't make it hotter. So our general rule of thumb is the bigger the temperature difference, so this is between the wet and dry bulbs, the lower the humidity. In contrast, if the wet and dry bulb temperatures are equal, then it's 100% humidity. Because that means no evaporation has occurred. Looks like arc. So this is how relative humidity is measured. Now today there are electronic ways of doing this, but it's still using this general concept that the more humidity there is, the closer those two temperatures are. The lower the humidity, the bigger the difference in temperature you have. And that is using a sling psychrometer.